Okay. In the last class, we discussed about sampling theory. Sampling theory is nothing but here we find out whether there is a relationship between the sample and population. And we also discussed about what is the purpose of sampling theory. The purpose of sampling theory is the first purpose, our first objective is we have to, before going for generalization, generalization means we collect the data from sample and we collect the information from the sample, then we apply it to the entire population. That process is called generalization. So before going for generalization, we have to see whether there is a relationship between the population and sample. So that is the main objective. And second objective is statistical estimation. Statistical estimation means we are estimating the value by using sample data. We can apply a regression. So when you are going for regression, and we use regression for estimation by using the sample data. Instead of going for population, we collect the data from samples and then estimate into the entire population. So before going for estimation and before going for generalization, and after that hypothesis, we develop hypothesis. And that is both null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Here we have to test whether we have to accept null hypothesis or we have to reject null hypothesis. In rejecting null hypothesis or accepting null hypothesis, we have to see whether there is a relationship between the population and sample. Why it is? Because see, only we can generalize or we can estimate or we can testify hypothesis only if the drawn sample or selected samples are properly or accurately represent the correctly represent the population. Only if correctly represent the population, then only we can generalize. For example, out of 3,000 students, I gave the same example in the last class also. Out of 3,000 students, if I select only library science student for to know the information literacy among the students, so it may be answer may be get a bias. So therefore, we have to test whether there is a relationship between the population and sample. So that is the three objectives of sampling theory, to find out the relationship between sample and population. And next we also discussed two important concepts, that is parameter and statistic. Parameter means is nothing but whatever the value you get directly from the population or the values which is related to the population. And statistic means the values are related to the samples. For example, if I calculate what is the average height of the students by taking entire 3,000 students. So 3,000 is the population size. So if I calculate the average height of the student by taking entire population, so that value, the average height of the entire population value is called parameter. And statistic means instead of I taking 3,000 students, if I select 100 students and if I collect what is their height, and if I calculate what is their average height, then that average height is called statistics. So whatever the value derived from the entire population is called parameter, and whatever the value derived from the sample is called statistic. And the next concept is sampling distribution. See, after finding out the relationship between the sample and or sampling theory and identifying the parameter and statistic, next important thing is knowing the sampling distribution. This is a pure theoretical concept. There is no practical implication, but we have to understand what you mean by sampling distribution, because in some of the statistical tools, we may come across some concept of sampling distribution. See, sampling distribution is nothing but it is a statistic distribution of the statistic considered as a random variable and derived from random sample of size. It may be considered as the distribution of the statistic for all possible samples from the same population of a given sample size. What does mean? See, sampling distribution means if there is a one population, if I take samples randomly by repeated. For example, I take five samples, five times, not five samples, five times. If I take samples five times, 3,000 students are there. First, I take 50 students and I calculate what is their average height. Next time, again, next month, I take again of 60 students. I calculate what is the average height. Different 50 students and different 60 students. And next month, I take 70 students and calculate what is the average height from the same population, from same 3,000 population. If I take different times of samples, for example, I take 5 samples. First time I take 50 samples, second time 60, third time 40, and next time 80, and again 100. And I calculate what is the average height. For example, I take what is the average. I calculate what is the average height of students in each samples. I may get a different answer from each samples. From first sample, I may get average height maybe 5.8, and from the second sample, I may get average height of 6, and third sample's average height may be 5.7, and next 5.4, like that. So there is a difference. I may get a variation in the answer, average height. So this is called a distribution of sample. What is the value, the statistic? You know that volume minimum statistic is nothing but whatever the value you derived from the sample. And if the value derived from the one sample is different from value derived from other samples, so that difference and that distribution is called sampling distribution. So it is different from one another. See, here one example is there. Population distribution. I hope it is visible. See, population distribution, there are 4 students are there. 4 students are there, and their actual heights are given. Actual height, first student 5 feet, and second student 6 feet, and 7 feet, and 8 feet. Consider, just for example, don't apply logical things here. See, first student may have 5 feet, and 6 feet, 7 feet, and 8 feet. That is the population. So in population, there are 4 students are there, and their heights are given. Consider sample distribution or sample selection. First, I select 3 students. In that 3 students, first student have a height of 5 feet, and 6 and 7. And again, next month or after some time, again I take a second sample, that is 5, 8, 8. And in third sample, again I take 3 students, 7, 8, 5. See, I calculate what is the average height of sample A, and what is the average height of sample B, and what is the average height of sample C. In the first sample, I get average height is 6, and in the second sample, I get average height 7, and the third samples, I get average height of 6.66. So you may calculate. You also calculate what is the average height of population. So you add 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 and divided by 4, 11, and here 18, 26 divided by 4, how much? 7.5 something, 7.5. See, average height of population is 7.5. Consider 7.5, and the average height of sample A 6, average height of sample B is 7, and average height of sample C is 6.6. See, the mean value or average height of each sample is different. One is 6, one is 7, and 6.6. So this is called sampling distribution. The variation in the statistic. This is nothing but statistic. This is statistic, and 7.5. Here's population. The average height of population distribution is called parameter. Parameter is 7.5. Statistic 1 is 6. Statistic 2 is 7, and statistic 3 is 6.6. The distribution or the variation in each sample is called sampling distribution. And when you plot those values in graph, you get this line or this shape, and this shape is called bell-shaped curve. Bell-shaped curve, we call it as bell-shaped curve. Normally, if the data or if the information or the values is normally distributed, you get same value or same shape. That is called normal distribution. We also call it as a normal distribution curve. See, it likes a bell-shaped curve. Here, this is a midpoint. This midpoint is called a mean. It is the mean value. Normally, it is the mean value. See, when you take n number of samples, the average value or the statistic from that samples may either this side or this side, either low or upper side. So it has equal proportion both left and right side. We 0.5 proportion and 0.5 proportion, whatever. See, this is called a normal distribution curve. And more details about normal distribution or normal distribution value we'll discuss while doing practical problems. Now you just understand what do you mean by normal distribution. What do you mean by sampling distribution, and how we calculate sampling distribution, and what is the image or the curve for normal distribution curve. Normal distribution. The next concept is a standard error. Standard error means it is a standard deviation of the sampling distribution of statistic, or it is the variation of actual value and your average value. See, take the previous example here. Previous example. What is the actual value? What is the actual mean? Actual mean is nothing but the mean of population, or the parameter. Mean of population is 7.5. See, the mean of population is 7.5, or the actual mean is 7.5. But from the sample A, we got the value is 6. And from sample B, we got 7. And here, 6.6. See the difference. The difference between actual mean or the mean of population and mean of sample. So there is a difference. That difference, when you combine it, that difference or variation, and you take a standard deviation, why we are use or why we calculate standard deviation is nothing but we have to need one exact value. See here the difference from first sample and population is 1.5. 6 minus 7.5, we got 1.5. And 7 minus 7.5, we get 0.5. And here the difference. Likewise, we have to calculate for each samples, and we have to calculate each samples what is the deviation and sum it up. So that is the total variation. But we need one value. So that is called standard deviation. Find out standard deviation for total deviation, then find out what is the standard error. See here one example is given. So there are 5 samples are taken, and their actual mean is given and average mean is given. What is the actual mean and what is the average mean? Average. And then find out the difference between actual and average. So this is the variation. This column is the variation. This column represents a sum square variation. You have to take a square of variation. Take the square of variation. Then use this formula to find out standard deviation. Standard deviation is nothing but sum of squared variation. Sum of this last column and divided by n. N means number of samples. How many samples are there? 5 samples. Take your 5 samples are there. He takes square of it and divided by n. So we'll get a one value. So that is called standard deviation. That is not standard error. So there is a difference between standard error and standard deviation. Then how to calculate standard error? So this is the formula to find out or to calculate standard error. Standard error is nothing but standard deviation divided by square root of n. Standard deviation divided by square root of n. By using this formula, we have to calculate standard error. And how to interpret, or how to the interpretation of standard error and any value. In our research, how we can write analysis by using standard error. See, standard error are used like in regression and in correlation we use standard deviation. In the same way, we use here a standard error. Like if the standard deviation is here, consider here standard deviation is 27.4, and after that if you use this formula and get some value, consider we get 0.75. So that is the standard error value. And how we should write interpretation for that? We should write like standard deviation is 27.4 plus or minus. While writing standard error, we should write plus or minus 0.75. So that means the value or the average height of the student may be more or less 0.75 with the value of 27.4. It may be 0.75 less, or it may be 0.75 more from the one value, that is 27.4 or average height. So that is the way of writing interpretation of standard error. This also we are going to discuss in practical problem. We have to calculate what is the standard error for given data. And next thing, okay, you do one thing. I'll end up here. You rejoin again. I'll take another concept. Okay. Yeah, next concept here after standard error, that is point estimation and interval estimation. See, there is no continuity in sampling theory or standard error or sampling distribution. These are all just a theoretical concept. So there is no need to you have to find link in first concept and here. So they randomly given some concept that you have to know before hypothesis testing. That is the first one they given like sampling theory, then parametric and statistical. These are a cut point. So there is no link between first point and second point. Don't find link between all those concepts. And next concept you have to know, that is interval estimation and point estimation. See, point estimation and interval estimation, as I said, in every statistical, whatever we methods, whatever statistical tools we used, ultimate purpose of those statistical tools or methods is to find out one value. We have to find out a value, And after that, we have to decide whether we have to accept the hypothesis or reject null hypothesis or estimation or the relationship between the variable, anything. So we have to find out values. So that is called a estimation. We consider the estimation. So in estimation, either we can find out a point estimation or we can go for interval estimation. So then what do you mean by point estimation? So in statistic, point estimation involves the use of sample data to calculate a single value known as a statistic, which is to serve as a best guess or best estimate of an unknown population parameter. Point estimation is nothing but you are finding out exact one value. You are finding out exact one value to estimate the values. For example, I need to find out a correlation between X and Y. If I find out, I may use any correlation method. If I find out one value, the correlation is 0.75. It always lies between plus or minus 1. So if I get correlation value 0.75, so there is high correlation between X and Y. So one value, I get only one value, that is 0.75. Or I'll take other example. If I need to find out what is the average scores obtained by the students, if I uh, calculate the values and if I tell the average scores obtained by the student is 75%, only one value. So that is point estimation. And what is average height? 6.7. So if you give only one answer as a best guess or best estimate, then it is called point estimation. There is no standard deviation, there is no standard error. You're giving one value for your calculation. That is called point estimation. Then what do you mean by interval estimation? See, the term explains what do you mean by interval estimation. Interval estimation is nothing but in statistic, interval estimation is the use of sample data to calculate an interval of possible or probable values of an unknown population parameter in contrast to point estimation, which is single number. Here, interval estimation, which is opposite to the point estimation, here we are not giving an exact value or best guess. We are giving the rough values or the probable values. Instead of giving one value, we give two values, which explains the minimum value and maximum value. We are giving in the form of interval. You know what do you mean by interval? Interval consists of upper value and lower value. Take same example. What is the average height of the student? Instead of telling like 6.1, I can say the average height of the students may 5 feet to 6 feet. See here, lower value is 5 feet and upper value 7 feet. I give a range of values, which explains the minimum value and maximum value. Other example for say what is the average scores obtained by the student. The students may score in between 50% to 70%. There is no exact value. I am giving a range. So that is called interval estimation. And interval estimation can be used with the help of standard deviation and standard error. As I said, the what is the average height of the student? Average height of the student may be 5.7 plus or minus 0.85. 0.85 may be standard deviation. Standard deviation is a variation. It may be 5.8 plus 0.8 or 5.8 minus 0.8, like that. So instead of giving exact value, I'm giving just interval or the range is called interval estimation. Because in some of the practical problems, sometimes they may ask a point estimate exact value. Sometimes they ask both interval estimation and point estimation. The interval estimation also used by using probability. That is, what is the range when you are giving a 90% probability or 90% guarantee? What is the range when it is 60% probability? So all these concepts we are going to know when we are discussing the practical problem. And next one is hypothesis. Say hypothesis is nothing but it is an assumption, preset of assumption is created to fulfill our objective, the objective of the research. Uh, uh, in research, to meet the primary objectives, we also set some of the assumption. So that is called hypothesis. In when you develop hypothesis, next thing is you need to testify. You need to testify that hypothesis. We develop both null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, and we have to collect the data related to hypothesis. Then we have to select the appropriate statistical tools for testing it. Then there are some ground rules are there for hypothesis testing, that is decision rules. We need to apply those decision rules. After that, we compare those values, stable value and calculated value, then we take decisions. Here, one examples are given. Are married workers are more likely to be absent from work than married workers? So that is one assumption, or some one of the findings of the previous study. That is, they said that are married. There is one question: are unmarried workers or single are more likely to be absent from work than married workers? It need not be a true. It need not be a true. We or before testing it, we cannot say that is singles are more absent than married people, because we cannot give conclusion based upon our opinion. We cannot say that. We need to prove in scientific way. There should be data, and there should be proper statistical tools, and need to be proven in systematic and scientific way. Then only you can conclude whether unmarried workers are more absent than married workers. Likewise, there are many hypotheses are there. We need to develop it and we have to testify it. And null, what do you mean by null hypothesis? So in inferential statistic, so inferential means first one is descriptive statistic. In the first class itself, I told what do you mean by descriptive statistic and inferential statistic. And descriptive statistic means you are analyzing the data by using a simple percentage or by using mean, median, standard deviation. So all those statistical. Inferential statistics means if you are using other than all those statistical tools like chi-square test, ANOVA, any statistical tools to testify the hypothesis, that is called inferential statistic. So in third unit and fourth unit, we are going to discuss inferential statistic. Again, in inferential statistic, we can divide into two, that is parametric and non-parametric testing. In third unit, we are going to discuss parametric test, and in fourth unit, we are going to discuss non-parametric test. So here, one example is given for null hypothesis. In null hypothesis is a general statement or default position that there is, which tells there is no relationship between two measured phenomena or no association among groups. There is no relationship between the two variables, or there is no relationship between the two phenomena or two situations. So always null hypothesis always says there is no relationship. See here, one example is given by taking the same example. The question is, are unmarried workers more likely to be absent from work than married workers? So how we can develop null hypothesis for this statement? We can develop for like null hypothesis, there is no significant relationship between married and unmarried people and their absence in work. So what is the two phenomena, or what is the two variable here? The two variable here, one first variable is marital status of the worker, that is married and unmarried. First variable, marital status. And second variable is whether they are absenting or presenting for the work. Absence. You can, if you go deeply, marital status is a nominal data, and absence of work we can measure it in a ratio data, that is in numbers. Out of 100 days, how many days they attended. So that is in numerical term, we call it as a ratio data. And the marital status is just for classification of the sample, that is married and unmarried. So that is the nominal data. And what is the alternative hypothesis? That is opposite to the null hypothesis. While developing null hypothesis, we also there is a compulsory, we should develop alternative hypothesis, because if null hypothesis is rejected, we have to accept alternative hypothesis. If null hypothesis accepted, then we have to reject alternative hypothesis. Same example how we can write alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis, we can say, no, here they wrong. There is a significant relationship between married and unmarried. Null hypothesis, there is no, but here we should write there is a significant relationship between married and unmarried people and their absence in work. Simple, we should eliminate no. So that is alternative hypothesis. So after developing hypothesis, we need to choose a right statistical tools, that is depending upon the nature of the data, that is whether it is ratio data, nominal data, and whether it is a data related to parameter or the population is available. We call it as a parameter, like if we know what is the mean of the population or what is the standard deviation of the population, then we can go for parametric testing. So that is alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis says there is no significant relationship, and alternative says there is a significant relationship between the two variables. In hypothesis testing, either we should accept or reject null hypothesis. If we accept null hypothesis, we should reject alternative hypothesis. If we reject null hypothesis, we should accept alternative hypothesis. And the next concept is what are the steps involved in hypothesis testing or hypothesis testing procedure. So this concept will discuss in the next class, because it needs some of the practical implication. So this concept will discuss in the next class.